Hello, traveler. Haven't seen you around these parts. You're welcome to accompany me at my nice, poorly edited green screen fire. However, I must warn you, if you seek refuge from the cold night air, then you must listen to the stories I bear. If that's settled, then we shall begin with the stories filled to the brim with events so grim.
I grew up on creepypastas and even some grimdarks from time to time. It was an essential part of my childhood. Explains a lot, I know. And I've always been aware that creepypastas are often considered the slop of the horror genre, and many of them end up as no more than crappypastas. Hell, some of the most popular in the genre are considered some of the worst, but that doesn't stop me from loving them. I just like corny horror. To some degree anyways, there's definitely a fine line between so bad it's good and just being bad. And even then, there are still so many amazing stories that fall under this category. It's not fair to say all creepypastas are bad, because that's just not the case. Except Splatoon creepypastas. Those are something else. Even when you're average or just downright bad Pokemon, Minecraft, or even MLP horror stories posted to the internet, I find a lot of the times they still end up being dumb fun. Whether it's just because I have nostalgia for the IP, or because the stories are genuinely entertaining, that's up for debate. And even then, there will always be exceptions. That said, there's so much of it, it almost becomes fun in a satirical way. Splatoon, however, doesn't have that. There's simply too little out there, and what is out there is, not great. I want to preface this by saying I'm aware most of these are made by first-time writers, but criticism is what leads to improvement. It's the only way I'll ever improve, and it's the only way you'll ever improve, which is why I hate this video. Look, I made it because I had a good idea for a title and thumbnail, not because I had a good idea for a video. I hate it, because it was clickbait and it worked. Never again. You all deserve better. So with that, let's take a look into Splatoon's internet horror stories and see if we can possibly find a hidden gem.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but why are you talking like you're in some 2015 YouTube video essay?
Oh, you can talk. I thought maybe you were some sort of mute embodiment of the audience.
What?
Never mind, don't worry about it.
Look, I only have one script, and I thought of the campfire narrative after the fact, so just, like, can we continue?
Okay?
Rad. How about we start our search with what is probably the most well-known story? The Bloodlings is probably the most popular Splatoon creepypasta I can think of. Does that mean it's good? Well, I guess we'll see. The story starts with the narrator going to GameStop. Oh, that's not a great start. Where they're looking for a copy of Splatoon for the Wii U. However, when they get the game, the inklings on the cover are spooky, having red and black hair instead of the usual orange and blue. Not thinking much of it, this one does, the player goes home and starts up the game, where everything seems pretty normal. The game plays as you'd expect. That is, until they tried multiplayer. That's probably the only real horror here. Oh wait, I should probably be doing a dramatic voice to make this creepier.
However, before they could get into a match proper, a red-haired inkling challenged the player to a 1v1. And they get pummeled into the ground, just absolutely demolished. With the player being unable to really do much to the red inkling, they end up getting splatted, bringing them back to the hub, where it was now casted in a deep darkness. It looked almost distorted. The plaza was empty. That was until the player finally saw someone off in the distance. Walking up to them, they tell the player their colors, their blood, and their will has been stolen from them. They want to be freed from this hell.
Oh my god.
The player is spooked and backs away, only for the red inkling to appear once more, this time crashing the game. The game started back up, but instead of the usual cheery news broadcast with the Squid Sisters, it opened to two red inklings, standing in a bloody room. The player runs back to the online lobby. They went into an online game, but soon realized they were now a red inkling. They walked around and noticed some inklings with black ink, standing perfectly still. They started to kill them, but every time they did, a horrible scream shot off the gamepad. As he killed more, their screams grew louder. No matter what he did, the TV wouldn't turn off. Blood started to ooze down the TV as his inkling appeared before him. As they began to write in the blood, "You let it consume you. Now, there's nothing."
So they went to return it the next day and they couldn't. Womp womp. Well, that was something. Okay, no. I won't be like that. This was clearly written by a kid, and it isn't the worst thing I've read. Not even close. It's not good per se, but I've read much worse. And there are some aspects that could make for a decent enough creepypasta. I don't inherently hate the Bloodling idea. I don't like how it's executed here, being another generic Sonic EXE-like character. I kind of have a soft spot for EXE characters, but it does get a bit tiring after a while. With them just going around, crashing games, and killing people, I do still see potential, but maybe instead of a generic EXE character, we set up the story inside of the Splatoon universe where this is some sort of a rare birth defect. one that sees Inklings and Octolings' tentacles filling with their own blood due to this birth defect, making them lack naturally producing ink, forcing their bodies to try and fill that biological need to defend themselves with anything it can. Do I think that's the perfect solution to the story? No. It's just kind of the first thing that came to my head. Literally took 5 minutes to think of that. But that's kind of my point. That aspect of the story could be explored in a more interesting and less cliched manner. I don't think it lacks potential. Of course, the actual story we got is riddled with cliches, poor pacing, and the works. Haunted gaming pastas are known for a few well-documented cliches. Those typically being, everyone shops at GameStop or similar game stores, odd or creepily altered game cards or discs, mistitled games, usually something super lame like Super Die Bros 666, black or red pupils, usually both, always glowing, hyper-realistic gore or blood, and characters somehow killing the player, etc, etc. This is a problem for most video game pastas, though even some of the good ones have these tropes and are able to get away with it, so I don't think it's inherently a show of a bad pasta to have 1 or 2 of these. However, the Bloodlings has all of them, which is pretty damning. Though I guess it is possible this is a troll pasta, which in that case, you got me, I guess. That said, if the author sees this, I'm aware it was made back in 2016. I'm sure you've improved a lot as a writer, and honestly, give it another shot. Hell, if you want to take my idea for a revised version and work off of that, please do. I'd love to see this revisited in some way, shape, or form. Because the actual writing and grammar was competent, maybe with a few hiccups, but nothing major. It was just the execution I think needed a bit more pizzazz. But for now, let's move on. The author begins the story describing a new, or at least unfamiliar race of ghoulish humanoid creatures. The creatures are green with bright white eyes, complemented by the red veins that accompany them. They're savage, untamed, and unpredictable, but worse yet, they're intelligent. Talking in an indecipherable language and wearing ragged clothes, presumably the clothes of past victims. It seems these beings are becoming more active as of late, as their howls are heard through the eerie night sky. Alongside that, pets and, worst of all, other Inklings and Octolings have reportedly gone missing in areas deemed active hunting zones. The bodies, when found, are in utterly mangled conditions, strewn about the nearby landscapes, never in one piece, but always in many. Few who have seen the creatures say they take some sort of malice in the act, constantly chuckling and laughing to themselves, wide smiles plastered along their pale green faces. If a survivor is bitten, they'll likely pass on. However, in the unlikely case they survive, a form of rabies will likely develop, causing an almost vampiric transformation in the victim, seemingly in an effort to further spread the disease. It's theorized that sometime during the Great Turf War, squid-napped individuals had been experimented on using some form of sanitized ink, leading to the disfigured creatures seen today. The pasta then ends by giving a name to these beings, deeming them
The Living Reapers.
Okay, well, let's start with the good, because there's definitely some cool ideas here. First off, I quite like the concept of a new race of mutated Inklings and Octolings created via some sort of freak experiment during the Great Turf War, and I think it would make for a great in-universe urban legend. That said, I don't know how I feel about these being just creatures that show up, kill some people, and maniacally laugh about it. It really does make them feel like just another creepypasta character that kills to kill and nothing else. Which, mind you, can be all you need to make a good horror character and story, but I don't know if this particular story does that well. Besides that, I really like the concepts the story presents, with the new creature and the Great Turf War stuff, and it has a lot of solid ideas. However, this story kinda has the inverse problem of our last pasta. Where the last pasta had a boring story but was competently written, this one has an interesting concept, but the grammar is dreadful. It is really hard to understand and read some sections. The author consistently switches between their writing style and tone, and just generally having a plethora of grammatical errors that make it just a bit frustrating to read. And you can switch up your tone. I mean, if you do it correctly, that's not really a problem, but the grammar doesn't back it up. This was made a while ago, so I'm almost 100% sure this author was young when they wrote this, so I'm sure they've improved quite a bit by now anyways. And like I said, I do think the ideas are really solid. Nothing crazy per se, but the best so far in terms of uniqueness at least. I think a rewrite using the same ideas would make for a genuinely good Splatoon creepypasta. I'd love to see this revisited by the author someday. The ink is blood! Honestly, no notes. 10 out of 10. Would hyper-realistic blood again.
I'm sorry to do this again, but what the hell are you talking about? You keep switching up your tone, like, you keep talking in a creepy voice, and then going back to, like, a normal talking voice, and why are you reviewing these and giving creative criticism? It's a campfire story, isn't it? It makes no sense.
Hey, don't worry about it.
Oh my god, just talking your normal talking voice.
So Pokemon Red is our next tale.
Oh my lord.
The story begins with the author giving us some background on themselves, as they also begin to explain to the audience what the dark web is.
Oh no.
The author states that when they were 17, they found a mysterious package addressed to them, all alone on their front porch. With both their parents having denied ordering anything, the author's curiosity gets to the best of them. They then open it to find a USB drive with a label reading
Dark Web.
Thinking this had to be some sort of joke, they plugged it into their computer. A completely reasonable thing to do with a mystery USB drive. Yes, I agree. Upon plugging it into their computer, it began glitching out. Surprising, I know. The computer soon returned to normal, for the most part, as now the author was met with a warning message reading,
Warning. There may be some things you may regret seeing or buying. Turn back now.
They proceed. Looking around, they think to look up Nintendo Switch games. Probably one of the funnier things to use the dark web for. Where they find a game called Splatoon Red. Okay, I need to stop using that sound effect. The author soon noticed some oddities about the packaging, with the logo being, as you'd expect, red, and the game being rated mature. The real seller, however, was the fact that it was free. So they added it to their cart, and as soon as they did so, a knock was heard on their door. And what would you know? Another mysterious package had arrived. Well, I guess not so mysterious in this case. Upon opening it, the author noticed even more peculiar aspects to the packaging, with the case being adorned with the words,
No escape. 666 hell.
Really? No escape 666 hell? They attempted to load up the game, yet at first it seemed like it crashed. That was till a high-pitched laugh was heard, followed by a vile scream, and the sounds of a gunshot, causing blood to splatter over the screen, creating a splash screen. Literally. Is this comedy? I don't think this is comedy. Next to the copyright symbol was the words Hail Satan, and instead of a copyright year, it was 666. Don't say anything, just continue reading. Once entering the game, they soon found themselves in Inkopolis. However, it was empty and silent. Once they began to walk around the place, it suddenly distorted, and Inkopolis took on a more ruined and ragged appearance. Worse though, there were people now, or at least there was, as the once living Inklings and Octolings were now a rotting corpse, strewn about the square, guts and bloody works hanging out over the surrounding area. All over the buildings written in blood were the words, We crave blood. The author soon realized there was a few living Inklings and Octolings. However, they only repeated one phrase.
I'm trapped in hell. Please help me.
To escape the square, they attempted to travel to the single-player campaign through the sewer. Yet, it was more of the same. The only survivor this time being a disheveled and weak Callie. Though that didn't last long, as a bloodling appeared in front of Callie, saying to the author,
My brother and I killed almost everything, and you're next. The screen went black, and the author then noticed a news notification.
5 people went missing after a supposedly haunted game.
I'm sorry to do this again, but what the hell are you talking about?
I'm not quite sure anymore, but we're almost done.
The player then finds themselves in Moray Towers, where they begin to be taunted by the 2 bloodlings. The bloodlings begin to circle the player. They tried to fight back, but nothing worked. Upon getting splatted, they were sent to a game over screen reading,
They'll trap you in here, like they did the others.
Apparently the souls of 5 damned players are trapped in the game.
Coming to this realization, they then hear a whisper from behind, turning to face 2 bloodlings beginning to crawl from the TV screen.
The author is kind of a badass. Proceeds effortlessly rip the face off of one of them as they approached. Stunning them, he then proceeds to rip the cartridge from his Switch and smash it into pieces, sending the monsters back to their digital grave. He then throws away all the evidence and pretends like nothing happened. Also, the evidence disappears when he checks the trash again. So that happens. The end. Okay, what do I say about this one? I've been trying to give some sort of creative criticism or ideas about how I'd go about it after reading each story. However, I just don't know what to say here. It has quite literally all the prior creepypasta cliches and definitely some I forgot to mention. I think this author could make a good story, as there is some decent aspects here. The writing itself is fine. It's not bad. I understood everything the author wrote. I didn't see too many errors either. Maybe some weird wording here and there. But my god, this was extremely generic. I'm sorry if that sounds cruel. I don't want to do that, because I know a lot of creepypastas are written by kids or first-time authors. However, this felt like they were trying to put as many cliches in this as possible, and maybe they were. I don't really know. That said, this very well could be a troll pasta, because, like I said, it's written well enough. It's the subject matter that is just nothing. I will say I do kind of like the idea of using bloodlings in a different story, though they do use them in the same exact way, so even then, my same critiques from that story also apply here. But yeah, bad plot, okay writing. And if by any chance the author sees this, I definitely think you can make a good story, but maybe try to avoid cliches. I know I said cliches don't make for a bad story outright, but if you embrace them all, then you need to be a god-tier writer to pull it off properly. I'd wholeheartedly fail at that, and I'd say I'm a mid-tier writer at best, meaning it'd be one hell of an uphill battle. This entry actually has a few creepypastas that were made and uploaded to a Game FAQs board. Now this one is quite short, so I think I'll just read the whole thing here, then give my feedback. you hear cars in the background, I can't do anything about that. I live right next to a road. Stay fresh! Straight from the diary of my deceased cousin, John. Rest in peace. The Squid Sisters were my favorite characters from Splatoon, from promotional art and various other sources. That is, until I witnessed something horrifying. It all started when I purchased a copy of Splatoon from this shady garage sale. I was always interested in the game, but had never gotten around to buying it. Excuse me? How much for this? I asked the man working. He stared at the box in my hand and stayed silent. $5, he finally said. Are you sure? I asked. I mean, the game usually goes for retail. $5, he said firmly. I shrugged. His call. After I handed over the $5, I drove home satisfied with my purchase. As soon as I got home, I sat down in front of my television and started up my Wii U. I set the Splatoon disc in. The disc, however, looked a bit off. But I passed it off as simply being a part of this disc being pre-owned, you know. The disc had a red and black inkling instead of the usual purple and lime green in the background. In the background, there was some reddish liquid dripping down. I think it might have been hyper-realistic blood. Whatever. I watched as the tutorial opened up. However, something seemed off about it, as there was this hysterical laughter in the background and what seemed like someone pleading for their life. Oh, and the ink was blood red, and hyper-realistic. Aside from that, the tutorial progressed as usual. However, when the title screen was shown, things started to get really weird. Callie and Marie appeared on screen, like they do every other time when you start the game. This time was odd though, as Marie had black eyes with glowing red pupil. I shrugged, must have been some sort of texture glitch. But then for some reason, Callie appeared to be afraid of Marie.
No, stay away!
Callie's text read, is little Callie Wally afraid? Marie's text read as her model moved closer to Callie. She produced what seemed to be a knife and continued to advance on Callie. The screen faded to black and footsteps echoed. A piercing scream rang out. Ah! A piercing scream ran out from the television and some squelching noises. I winced. The screen faded back in, and Marie was the only sister there. She was now covered in red ink-like substance that looked like hyper-realistic blood. I freaked out when I saw that. Why was this happening?
This is Marie, live from Inkopolis.
Marie's text box read,
From now on, I'll be the only host of the Squid Sisters show. Callie has gotten into a little accident.
I shivered as I watched Marie ramble on about various subjects. Eventually, more inklings broke onto set, seemingly trying to take Marie down. She laughed.
You think you can defeat me? Fools! My existence is far above your own.
Marie proceeded to slaughter the inklings on camera. Red ink poured onto the floor, heads rolled. At this point, I was terrified. I hadn't tried shutting down the Wii U, so that was my first resort. But it wouldn't power down.
You think you can simply get away from me?
Marie asked. She seemed to be much more 3D now.
Well, it's too late for that.
Marie lunged at me from out of the television. I screamed and ran like an ink brush user from a kraken. That line is so good. I locked myself in my room and began to write this. Somewhere along the trail, Callie joined Marie, and they're now both trying to break down my door. I leave all my belongings to my cat, Whiskers. He's the only one who truly understood me, since my whole family sucks. Oh no, they've broken down the door now. Goodbye! Yeah, if it wasn't obvious, this was an actual troll pasta. After the negativity of the last one, and I do apologize, I wanted something that is actually trying to be silly as a fun way to kind of end off the stories. And I could continue, however, that's kind of the majority of Splatoon creepypastas. I mean, there's obviously more, but most of them seem to be troll posts, even more so than the ones we just covered. That or they're just too long and I'm kind of strapped for time. I hate school. That said, the internet is such a big place, so I 100% missed some gems out there. Meaning if you think I missed any that deserve some sort of discussion, please tell me in the comments below. Also, while you're down there, you might as well do the YouTube thing and like, comment, and subscribe as well. Though for now, I think we've had our fill of Splatoon creepypastas. I'm still kind of baffled that a series as big as Splatoon has so little to work with. What I covered today wasn't all of it, but it was a lot of it. It's just weird. Especially with Splatoon's surprisingly deep and dark lore, you'd think it'd be a gold mine, and it probably is. There's a plethora of untapped potential, and I really do hope this video inspires some people to create their own creepy stories. Or if any of the authors see this, maybe revisit their stories, because any story can be improved upon, especially over time. As someone who's making his own comic, not subtle plug, I know it's not easy. Holy hell, it's not easy. Well, that's why you get feedback and use that to create an even better story. However, with that, I think it's time to go.
Okay, I've had enough of this. I'm leaving. You're clearly insane and I don't want to be here when you snap.
Okay, bye. Hope to see you next time.
Not likely.
Thank you channel members Best Pro Gaming and Stylish. Then thank you to my $15 patrons, Psyche Clips and Benjamin Baker. Thank you all very much for the extra support. Also, I know this video is going on for way too long, but if you have any fan art or anything like that, please send it to my Twitter while it still exists, because I'm pretty sure Twitter is about to literally implode, or Blue Sky, because I made one of those too. Okay, bye.